I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Iran has demonstrated in so many ways it couldn't care less about the restrictions of this deal. What it wants are the economic advantages that Obama and Kerry gave to them.
Our Secretary of State right now, Mike Pompeo, is in North Korea. He is meeting with Kim Jong-un, and apparently they're going to set a time and a date for the presidential summit.
In about 3 hours from now, President Trump's pick to lead the CIA, Gina Haspel, will be in the hot seat in front of Congress for her confirmation hearing.
A city in liberal Los Angeles County takes a stand against California's sanctuary laws. The Santa Clarita City Council voting to support the Trump administration's lawsuit against the state.
Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dance. Like I can fly and don't even think.
Good morning.
Welcome aboard.
7:01 here on the East Coast. Wednesday morning. It's going to be a great day.
Of course it's going to be a great day. Some things changed yesterday, just a little bit. Just a little,
Right?
tiny bit.
Iran deal.
we
pulled out of the Iran deal. Yesterday at 2 o'clock, the president made that announcement.
Oh, yeah, I have a version of it right here. It's the crappy Iran deal. They still get to keep their missiles. It's gone now.
Ripping it up.
That wasn't the Tom Cotton card I'm supposed to use in 5 minutes.
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. No.
That's right.
My version.
You know, to recap, the Iran deal that President Obama agreed to, what that was going to do was it froze their nuke program for a certain period of time, but they could still continue to build missiles.
Yep.
And they were militarily active throughout Syria. They took all that money and they're stirring up the Middle
And we
East.
couldn't inspect their military sites.
We had to give them 30 days notice in order to inspect, which means they could go in there and clean it up and hide all the evidence.
And it was such a bad deal. The president, when he was a candidate, said, look, you make me president, I'm going to pull the plug on it. It was no surprise at 2 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday from the White House, the president said, effectively, I'm pulling the plug on it. Here's his way of saying it.
The United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction. And we will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth. As we exit the Iran deal, we will be working with our allies to find a real, comprehensive, and lasting solution to the Iranian nuclear threat.
You know, remember, this was not a treaty. This was an executive action. Congress never ratified the deal that he cut. In fact, there was overwhelming opposition to it in the Senate. And I think for a lot of people that voted for this president, there's feelings of relief, admiration, restored belief that in the swamp, if you elect the right guy, he will stand up, guy or gal, you stand up and say, we're out.
Well, it's not
if it
like
doesn't
he
serve our
flip-flopped
interests.
on it. He ran on this. He
Exactly.
ran on, he said in 2015 this transaction was incompetently negotiated. And then 3 other instances in 2016, he said one of the worst deals ever negotiated. We gave Iran $150 billion. They gave us absolutely nothing. And the deal is catastrophic. So if you went to the polls and you voted for him, you knew he was going to do this.
Sure. And Pete, you were talking about the Senate. It was never ratified for the U.S. Senate. You go back to 2015, who was one very prominent Democratic senator who was absolutely against it and voted against President Obama's deal?
Who was it?
That would be Chuck Schumer. Now, it's as if he loves it. Oh, I can't believe that the president
Just
pulled
because
the
he
plug
hates
on
this president so much, right?
Look,
they go against anything that he likes.
According to Dan Bongino, and he cuts through the BS like nobody's business, this was a crap deal. Listen.
This was never a negotiation. It was a manipulation. The Iranians played the Obama administration for fools. Sean, let me ask you a simple question, okay? Let's get common sense here. Let's just get dollars to donuts. The Iranians prevented us from looking at military installations to inspect those military installations for the production of nuclear weapons. Sean, where the heck do you think they're going to produce a nuclear weapon? The local Walmart Of course they're going to do it in the military installations. I mean, this is common sense. This was never a deal. This was Obama getting played. The Iranians never had any intention of sticking to this deal. And I applaud President Trump for throwing this crap deal out the window.
Think about what's happening right now. The president's going after these rogue nations. You've got Mike Pompeo, who's going to North Korea to set up the meeting with the president. You know what's happening there. And then you've got, we're worried about nuclear weapons there. We're worried about nuclear weapons in Iran. And our president's saying, listen, I've got to do what's best for America. And this is what I ran on, and I want us to be safe. And I don't trust you, Iran. You're yelling death to America, death to Israel. Yesterday, after the president withdrew, they burned the American flag in the streets there.
Of course, and the media and the Democrats, others always want to say he's reckless, he's going to bring us to nuclear war. Now we're at the table, as you said, at North Korea. Now he's responsible.
Literally right this
Literally
minute.
At this moment, Mike Pompeo is there meeting with Kim Jong-un. This is the parliament of Iran yesterday burning American flags. Can you imagine that? in our, I mean, that gives you every sense you need to know about their sentiments. We're supposed to trust them. But this president listened to allies. He listened to, he saw the proof that Israel presented about Iran cheating on the deal and lying about it. He waited a couple of times, gave the Europeans a chance to fix the deal. They didn't, so he said, hey, we're out. We want to serve America's interests. It was a responsible approach. But, of course, will he get the credit, Steve?
Look, you know where they were furious about this deal? On the floor of the Iranian Senate, their parliament, and TV land. Watch this.
America's allies had urged the president not to do this. They are reacting tonight, and so is Iran, already with a new threat.
They are dismayed and bewildered right now, saying that America's arrogant and can't be trusted.
Candidate Trump promised to pull out of it. Today, President Trump did, with widespread implications.
The U.S. is essentially reneging on the nuclear deal with Iran.
Across Europe, there's a chill tonight that the U.S. under President Trump may not be a reliable partner anymore.
They have basically said to the rest of the world, we are not obeying an agreement that we signed, and that the United States of America under one administration can sign deals, but it will not be trusted by subsequent presidents.
Okay, keep in mind, President...
How you feeling?
Emmanuel Macron, the guy who runs France right now, he has been kind of on the president's side where he goes, look, it's not a good deal, but let's do something. So going forward, apparently, a number of our European allies are going to try to figure out how to bring the Americans back. And how do they do that? Address all of the things that Donald Trump has been talking about for years.
Maybe you pull out in the beginning, and then if they want you back in, then you have to work with us. You have to
make
negotiate
the deal
to make it better for
so
us.
it actually prevents a nuclear bomb, doesn't expire in 10 years so they can get one. They can't keep testing their ballistic missiles. They can't keep funding terrorism. I mean, it's absurd how terrible the deal was. But in the sanctimonious nature of that media montage that you just played, the self-importance, the defense of Barack Obama, why would that be?
President Obama reacted.
Because that's every night on the mainstream
exactly.
news.
Yeah, that brings us to our next topic. If you look at the polls, it's pretty astronomical. ABC, CBS, NBC, according to Media Research Center, their coverage of Trump's overall job approval rating, well, actually, his approval rating rose, but their coverage of our president, 91% of their coverage, according to MRC, is negative about Donald Trump.
January, February, March, April of this year, 91% negative in the nightly news, 9% positive. Yet during that time frame, we've seen the jobs numbers, we've seen the economy. Look what's happening in North Korea, and that's what you get.
Well, you know what? One of the reasons for that is people like what is happening, apparently, according to the polls. We ran a CNN poll yesterday that showed that he is ticking up. One of the things people like, the Republican-led tax cuts. Yesterday, there was an event, apparently, and a Politico reporter by the name of Jake Sherman asked Nancy Pelosi about those now famous crumbs, the tax cut money people were able to keep. The soundbite she provided will be used in 1 million Oppo ads coming up in November. Here's Nancy Pelosi on if she's speaker, they're going to raise taxes.
They have a new ad that they put out after you said you thought you were going to win the majority that says the title was all at stake. It said that you would like to institute a single-payer health care program and raise taxes. I think they mean roll back the tax cuts that they passed this year. Is that, what do you think of that?
Well, the second part there is accurate. I do think that we should revisit tax legislation in the way that we always have, in a bipartisan transparent way that the result is unifying for the country.
You're right,
Wow.
Steve. Steve Doocy also moonlights as a political consultant. He's exactly right. Roll tape. If you're a Democrat, do you support Nancy Pelosi's idea that we're going to raise your taxes, folks?
Do you know anyone who wants that? Anyone who wants that, even Democrats. Do you know anyone who wants?
Well, you can voluntarily
taxes to
pay
be
more
raised?
taxes if you want to.
Well,
Good point. All these wealthy Democrats, if they support what she says, why don't they just open up their wallets?
You
and give
can.
more
You can
money?
donate
You can-
voluntarily to the IRS if you want.
but isn't the number in the upper 40s, like 47% of Americans don't pay federal taxes anyway?
So they don't care.
Yeah. Hey, it sounds good to us.
What a tax plan.
matter.
Open borders and more taxes. It sounds like a
Work
plan.
really hard. The higher up you go, the more money you make, the more taxes you're going to pay.
And then you look at Donald Trump, who is not for open borders. He's doing everything he can to secure things down
Correct.
south. He wants you to keep more of your money in the form of the tax cuts. And now that deal in Iran,
it's gone. And maybe peace on the Korean Peninsula, which Barack Obama said that was going to be the hardest problem to solve.
Right.
Which he dives right into.
The news this morning is that Mike Pompeo is over there right now, and it sounds like, according to South Korean officials, when he returns to the United States, on that airplane will be the 3 captive Americans.
Wouldn't that be
Boy,
wonderful?
that'd be great. 'Cause and who knows how those Americans have been treated?
One of them, a missionary. I know. We saw Otto Warmbier. One of them is an American missionary. He's a pastor over there. The other 2 are teaching at a college there. Hopefully they'll come home.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, sure. 7-Eleven here in New York City now, and Jillian joins us with results from yesterday's primary.
That's right. Good morning to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on the stories that we've been following for the last couple hours here. 4 new Republican challengers ready to try and take Capitol Hill after big primaries in crucial states, starting with Senate races in the West Virginia. State Attorney General Patrick Marcy topping former coal executive Don Blankenship and Congressman Evan Jenkins. In Indiana, it was Mike Braun getting the GOP nod over 2 sitting congressmen, Todd Rokita and Luke Messer. And Jim Renacci beat businessman Mike Gibbons in the Ohio Senate primary. In the North Carolina House races, sitting Congressman Robert Pittenger voted out in the primary. It was Mark Harris getting the nod there. A special prosecutor will now investigate the former New York Attorney General accused of abusing women. Eric Schneiderman resigned hours after 4 women came forward in a New Yorker report claiming he assaulted them. The Democrat has been a vocal supporter of the Me Too movement. He denies the allegations. Jerusalem now thanking President Trump for recognizing it as the capital of Israel. The city square near the new U.S. Embassy will be named the United States Square in honor of President Trump. Ivanka Trump and husband Jared Kushner will attend next week's embassy opening as part of a White House delegation. That's a look at your headlines. Back to you.
And Pastor Jeffress is going to give the invocation of the prayer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Incredibly historic. You see those street signs come up, it gets real.
Thank you very much, Jillian. Of course, that's something else the president promised when he was just a candidate.
And 2 or 3 previous presidents promised it too, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, funny how that works.
They didn't deliver.
All right, meanwhile, just a couple of hours from right now, CIA nominee Gina Haspel will be in the hot seat on Capitol Hill for a confirmation hearing. Senator Tom Cotton will be there. He's got a bunch of questions. What does he want to hear her say? He is next.
And forget final exams. One university is teaching students how to help illegal immigrants. Wow, excellent. Extra credit. You bet Tommy Lahren has something to say about that, and she joins us live coming up.
Fox News alert in just a couple of hours from right now. CIA Director nominee Gina Haspel in the hot seat, expected to assure the Senate the CIA interrogation program is over during her confirmation hearing later today. Republican Senator Tom Cotton sits on the Senate Intel Committee, worked with Haspel during her time as Deputy CIA Chief, joins us right now from Capitol Hill to weigh in. Good morning to you, Senator.
Morning, Steve.
Well, the president, I think it was a day or 2 ago, tweeted out, she's been tough on terrorists. Isn't that what we want?
Yeah, Steve, if Gina Haspel being tough on terrorists is the worst thing the Democrats have on her, then that's not much of a case against her. This is a very distinguished career intelligence professional. She spent 33 years in the CIA working against the Soviet Union and now Russia, working against terrorists. 7 years ago, when we faced the worst attack on our soil in American history, she was a mid-career officer, and she's put her hand up and said, I'm willing to go forward and do the tough jobs. And the agency leadership had the confidence in her integrity and her professionalism to entrust those jobs to her.
Right, but of course they say, look, she ran a CIA prison for a number of years, and that's very troubling, and she was involved in the enhanced interrogation, which they refer to as torture, but at the time was considered completely legal. What are the Democrats doing with her?
Well, Steve, first off, I just say that in those years, 2001 to 2003, Gina was a mid-career intelligence officer. This is the situation we faced. We had just been attacked with 3,000 Americans killed on our soil. The commander-in-chief directed those programs. The attorney general legally approved them. And the Democratic director of the CIA, George Tenet, supported them. He entrusted Gina to help in that effort, and she did her job. She did it well with honor, integrity, and professionalism. Now, the Congress has since made a different judgment. Several years ago, we passed a law that would prohibit some of the interrogation techniques that were used in those days. And Gina will say today in her testimony, she said repeatedly that she will follow the law and she will maintain the highest ethical standards at the CIA. Ultimately, what this comes down to is the Democrats in the Senate simply cannot accept the fact that Donald Trump is the president, because Obama-era intelligence officials like John Brennan and Jim Clapper and Leon Panetta and Michael Morrell all support Gina Haspel's nomination.
And the main reason you say that she's getting some opposition on Capitol Hill from Democrats is simply because Donald Trump nominated her.
I don't see how else you could explain it, Steve. I mean, when John Brennan and Jim Clapper, the director of the CIA and director of national intelligence for Barack Obama, don't just support Gina, but actively and openly advocate for her, on what possible grounds are these Senate Democrats opposing her, other than the fact that Donald Trump nominated her?
Exit question, just nod your head one way or another. Will she be approved by the Senate?
She'll get a bipartisan vote out of the Senate Intelligence Committee. She'll have a bipartisan vote in the Senate. She will be the next CIA director.
All right, that's good to know. Now we know. Tom Cotton, Senator from the great state of Arkansas. Sir, thank you very much. Meanwhile, this is a Fox News alert. Democrats slamming President Trump's decision to tear up the Iran deal, saying it defies comprehension. John Bolton will join us live next. Fox News alert, overnight Iranian lawmakers burned a U.S. flag in their Iranian parliament, vowing to increase spending on its ballistic missile program, which they've been working on for years, which is all, of course, a direct response to President Trump's announcement pulling out of the nuke deal yesterday.
National Security Advisor John Bolton joins us live from the White House with his reaction. Good morning to you. Congratulations on your new post. So aside from giving them $150 billion, aside from them burning the American flag, yelling death to America, why was this decision so important?
Well, look, it's no surprise Iran doesn't want to change anything in the existing Iran nuclear deal. Why should they? They got a wonderful deal from their perspective. In fact, their only regret, I think, is they didn't ask Obama and Kerry for more, because they probably would have gotten it. That's why the president focused on why the deal was fundamentally flawed in his remarks yesterday. And because of that, it was not in America's strategic interest to enter the deal, and it was not in our strategic interest to stay in the deal. So we're out of it. We're going to reimpose sanctions to the maximum extent possible. We're going to work with our European allies. We're going to go after other objectionable aspects of Iran's behavior. We're going to try and reduce this threat in the region and around the world.
Well, sir, if you hear, you probably saw some of the reaction from Democrats who think a little bit differently about what the deal used to represent and what this move means now. Here's what a few Democrats said yesterday. We're going to put it up on our screen. Barack Obama, former president, said it risks eroding America's credibility. Nancy Pelosi said it endangers global security and defies comprehension. And, of course, John Kerry, who is going behind this administration's back and talking to other countries, says it breaks America's word. A lot of them said it makes a nuclear Iran more likely. What do you say to these critics?
I think they're 180 degrees wrong. I think this deal was giving Iran cover to get to the objective it's been pursuing for decades, which is deliverable nuclear weapons. This deal was badly negotiated. It was conceived with a wrong view of its consequences for the United States and Iran. I mean, really, it rested on the notion that if we could just resolve the nuclear problem, Iran's behavior would change for the better. Exactly the opposite has taken place. Iran's behavior has gotten worse. It's been more belligerent, more supportive of terrorism, as we can see from what they're doing right now in Iraq and Syria.
Well, right now we have heard, and we're not going to ask you to comment on it because I know you don't want to get in front of the president, but Mike Pompeo is in North Korea. And it is expected he's going to be traveling back very shortly. Could have some surprises there. But, sir, a number of Democrats have said the message to North Korea is you can't trust the United States. We had a deal with Iran, and they can't trust us, and neither should the North Koreans. What's your message to the Democrats who are saying that?
Well, they're completely wrong. We had a rotten deal with Iran, and just as George W. Bush withdrew from the 1972 ABM treaty because it was not in America's strategic interest, that's what the president has done here. I think it sends a very important message to North Korea that we're not in these negotiations with them just to get a deal. We're going to get the right deal. And with respect to North Korea, we're going to ask that they do what they agreed to do over 25 years ago, which is not only not pursue nuclear weapons, but give up uranium enrichment and plutonium reprocessing, the back end and the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle. That was the European position with respect to Iran back in the day, and that's what we ought to take a look at.
Sends a strong message to these rogue nations. Now, will the sanctions work even if we don't get participation from our European allies?
Well, the sanctions take effect immediately, so there's no new business allowed under the terms that are prescribed. For existing contracts, there are wind-down provisions that come into effect, and the Treasury Department and others will be laying those out in more detail. But obviously, our sanctions have enormous effect on Europe already. Licenses of American technology. If American companies can't use those licenses to sell to Iran, neither is anybody else. So we're going to be talking to the Europeans. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to be doing a video conference with my counterparts from Britain, France, and Germany. Work forward on the next steps, looking at some of the ideas President Macron of France has been talking about. We have a lot to do because we share the common objective. We don't want Iran with nuclear weapons.
Sir, as the newly minted National Security Advisor, you have a front row seat to a very historic week, from the scrapping of the Iran deal to the prospects of a sit-down in North Korea, and then the moving of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. What is it about, if you've watched this president, what is the Trump doctrine? What is it about this approach that has created these opportunities and changes?
Well, I think the president follows the advice of Harry Truman and Dean Acheson, that he negotiates from positions of strength and not positions of weakness. He believes in peace through strength. When he says something, he carries through on it. And I think that's where the real credibility comes from, not from executing deals that don't accomplish what they're designed to. So I think that's one reason he's very optimistic, looking forward to the meeting with Kim Jong-un.
And, Mr. Bolton, what do you say to Democrats who are upset that the president pulled the plug on this, even though a number of them, including Chuck Schumer, back a couple of years ago, voted against Barack Obama's Iran nuke pact?
Right. They were right the first time. This deal was a mistake when it was originally agreed to, and it hasn't aged well.
There you go. All right. John Bolton joining us today on a very busy day at the White House. Sir, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Glad to be with you.
Good to have you.
A city councilwoman under fire for refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And this morning, she's not backing down. You're going to hear from her next.
Who does she pledge allegiance to, then? I wonder.
Good question.
And while you were sleeping, another California city voting to fight back against the state's sanctuary laws. Tommy Lahren lives out there on the left coast in Los Angeles. She reacts here next.
You are hearing the voices of patriotic people that love their country.
California has gone from the Golden State into a state of lawlessness.
We're not talking about immigration. We're talking about criminality. We are tired, we are fed up by the lawlessness of the Democratic Party.
Sanctuary cities are magnets for criminal aliens. Come the right way. You are not entitled to be here. Respect Americans. This is America.
USA! USA! USA!
That is in California, guys. That's Santa Clarita. That's right outside of L.A.
Yes.
And keep in mind, it was in January that California became a sanctuary state. And obviously, the people of California aren't all on the same page, at least in that enclave just outside of Los Angeles.
That's right. City council members there voted 5-0 last night to support the DOJ's lawsuit against that sanctuary state.
Joining us right now, West Coast correspondent, Fox News contributor, Tomi Lahren. Tommy, what's going on with Southern Californians and their message to Sacramento?
Well, I tell you, every week I'm on the show, and every week I tell you Californians are waking up, and city by city, area by area, county by county, we are seeing it. Make no mistake, California will not tolerate lawlessness anymore. And what you're seeing is the American people not taking this as a left versus right issue, but an issue of safety. But I will say this is a cautionary tale to the Democrats. You, Democrats, made this a left versus right issue by choosing to uphold illegal immigrants over American citizens. You caused this. And now what you're seeing is Californians saying, you know what? If the Democratic Party is standing up for illegal immigrants over the American people, I'm not so sure I support that party anymore. And if it can happen in California, of all places, it can happen anywhere, and it will.
All right, well then, Tommy, what do you think about this story? It started first at NYU, New York University, very liberal school, and now at Rutgers. They have this class where they're training the students ways to assist undocumented illegal immigrants. It's called the Dream Zone. They're teaching them pending legislation for DACA students. They're teaching them the history of immigration in the United States and methods to check what people are saying about undocumented illegals on various social media sites.
Wouldn't it be nice if our institutions of higher education taught students about the rule of law and immigration law instead of how to break that law and how to reinforce lawlessness, line cutting, and absolute lunacy? Look at this. We know that college campuses are the last bastion the left has. This is their stronghold. They're moving further and further to the left. However, by doing this, as I said with California, they are only pushing people to center right. So when they continue to do this, they continue to caught illegal immigrants, they continue to preach lawlessness. All they're doing is helping our cause. The American people are going to wake up to this because this is utterly ridiculous.
Well, speaking of that cause, Keith Ellison, who's I believe the deputy chairman of the DNC, the number two guy, he was caught wearing this T-shirt at an event. That's Spanish. I can't pronounce that. No crayon en fronteras. A Spanish sentence that translates to "I do not believe in borders," a cause pushed by open border groups. So when the president says, you know, we want a wall, we believe in sovereignty in our nation, without borders you don't have a country, is he not fairly articulating the fact that the modern left, led by their leadership, doesn't believe in borders?
Of course, welcome, as you said, to the modern Democratic Party. And it's a party that will continue to lose because of people like Keith Ellison who preach open borders. But I do have to give it to him and others on the left because finally they're showing their cards. They're saying, you know what, we're not going to beat around the bush anymore. We are for open borders. We are for illegal immigrants. So I hope the American people are taking note because American people, the Democratic Party in this country is telling you exactly what they stand for. And if that's not what you stand for, well, I guess that's not the party for you.
You know what?
The abolition of national borders.
They're making it very clear it's going to, you know, we had some primaries yesterday scattered across the Northeast yesterday, Tommy, and it's very clear it will be to voters in November. Which party are you for? Are you for the open borders, take back the crumbs party, or the other party, which you know exactly what they've done so far?
Well.
Sounds like an easy choice to me, guys. I can't wait for election season to really gear up.
All right, Tommy, thank you so much. Great to see you.
The Take Back Your Crumbs party, Steve.
Thank you, guys.
You are teeing up a political consultancy, if I've ever heard of it.
Really? You think so?
I think so.
Will that fit on a hat? A red hat?
Maybe.
All right.
Let's get it done.
22 minutes before the top of the hour.
All right, let's hand it over to Jillian. You have some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
Yes, that's right. Let's get you caught up on some of the news we're following, starting with this. A Russian oligarch denying that a firm he is tied to sent $500,000 to the president's personal lawyer. The accusations from Stormy Daniels' lawyer, who claims Victor Vekselberg used Columbus Nova to replenish Michael Cohen's bank account after he paid the adult film star to keep quiet about an alleged affair with the president. Columbus Nova calls the claims patently untrue, and a spokesman for the Russian oligarch tells Fox News, Quote, neither Victor Vekselberg nor Renova has ever had any contractual relationship with Mr. Cohen or Essential Consultants. The alleged payment was made after the election. A decades-old cold case suddenly turning red hot. Authorities digging for the remains of at least 6 young girls who have been missing in Michigan since the 1970s and 80s. The FBI now believes the bodies of 12-year-old Kimberly King and others may have been dumped there by convicted child murderer Arthur Ream. Ream is already serving a life sentence for killing a 13-year-old girl whose body was found in the same area 10 years ago. A councilwoman in New York State is under fire for refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance during a public meeting. Residents in Peekskill want Vanessa Agudelo to step down. The proud Democratic Socialist tells Fox News she refrained from saying the pledge, quote, not because I don't respect the values this country stands for, but it is because of our country's failure to truly uphold them. A California restaurant is sparking outrage over its anti-children policy. A sign outside the Old Fisherman's Grotto in Monterey, California reads, quote, no strollers, no high chairs, no booster chairs. Children crying or making loud noises are not allowed in the dining room. While some customers despise this policy, the owner is unapologetic and says it is good for business.
You know, I mean, it's your private
business. They're allowed to do it. Yes,
True. Just won't be taking our kids there.
Right, right.
That's exactly
our choice.
I'm going to McDonald's again, kids.
Some people think they should do that on airplanes.
No.
No kids, or kids are in the back or something. No crying babies. Let us know what you think about that. I happen to love kids. I think the more the merrier, but some people, not so much.
Totally agree.
All right, wondering why you're sniffling and sneezing so much?
Well, I think it has to do with the season, and Janice Dean joins us right now. One resident in New Jersey, Janice, may have, we've got a soundbite we're going to play for the folks at home. Watch this.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. That is not gas. That is pollen flowing out of the tree when it's tapped. Just tapped.
It's New Jersey? That looks like South Carolina. This is what our back porch looks like.
I know it. The cars will be covered with that stuff in no time. Janice Dean joins us with the forecast and the pollen cast.
Sunny with a chance of a lot of pollen. You know, some kids are actually not going outside during recess because the pollen is so bad. I mean, achoo! Claritin alert. Let's take a look at the maps today. It is a beautiful day despite the pollen here in New York City. 57 right now, 63 in Chicago, 50 in Rapid City, 65 in Corpus Christi. We do have the potential for some showers and some thunderstorms across the Great Lakes. The good thing with the showers and thunderstorms is it cuts back on the pollen, so we will enjoy that. But the potential for large hail, maybe some damaging winds, and an isolated tornado will be with us through the afternoon and the evening. With the daytime eating, that's when we could see the watches and warnings in effect. And holy moly, it is hot across the Southwest, breaking records in Phoenix, 106 already, and we'll see feel a little bit of relief as we head into Saturday and Sunday, but still really hot. So we can't complain here because look at Phoenix. I mean, yeah, crazy.
No kidding.
Everybody into the pool.
Yes. Exactly right. That will soon be covered with pollen.
Please. Please make it heated.
All right. Meanwhile, the first wave of primary races are in the books, and the president just weighed in on the results. We're live in Washington next.
Plus, everyone makes the cheerleading team, or no one does. That's what's happening in one town because one parent complained. Larry Winget is fired up, as you can imagine, about this one. Can't wait to hear his opinions. Coming up.